We just had this literal conversation about ignoring Neelix.
I'm not hearing Neelix. I thought it was something else you mentioned.
It was before you joined.
No, we were talking about one of the more hated characters in Star Trek, and naturally Neelix came up. Poor Neelix.
Yeah.
Poor Neelix. Although, they did give us early on some of the best inter-character dialogue between the Doctor and Neelix in the episode where we were introduced to the Vidians. So, there we are. Not bad.
The Doctor made the mistake. Yeah. Neelix has had his lungs removed. He can't breathe and he definitely can't speak. And the Doctor made the mistake of giving him temporary hologrammatic lungs.
Space magic solves everything. Well, folks, it looks like it's that time again. Well, there's only one thing for it. Hope that the intro
wheel
plays.
of morality.
Spin the wheel of morality. We have one of those.
Wheel of morality. Turn, turn, turn. Show us the lesson we will learn.
Please don't sue us, Warner Brothers.
Please. They're Animaniacs. They're cool. If they know what's good for them.
Well, like he'll send the moss. We're coming for you, Warner Brothers.
Disrespect us and we will send in the moss. Well, I suppose it's time to play that intro. Oh, thank goodness it worked this time. There she is. Ain't she a beauty? Hey, it worked. How about that?
It worked.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the further misadventures of the USS Navis and her crew. How are we all doing today? Have we all got connection to everything? In fact, let's throw the Great Adventure theme back on, just so we've got something that folks can confirm they can hear over Sirenscape. Don't all agree at once.
Yep.
Nope. Sorry, Troll is here tonight.
Hockey dokie. Who've we got tonight? Now, apparently Davis is not going to be with us, so we are down a chief engineer. So we will make do with what we can of that for the time being. But, in the meantime, this does mean that one of the first things we are going to have to approach is, of course, the research and development downtime that happens at the end of one episode and into the beginning of another. And yes, sadly, because Davis isn't here, it does mean that the decision as to how to proceed is all down to Alex. As long as that's okay with Alex.
Yeah.
Or are we going to maybe postpone it until Davis is back, maybe at the second half of this episode? We can retroactively do it that way, I think.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, to be honest, I'm probably going to finish. I know what you say, which is finish down the avenue we've already started, because there's no point in quitting it halfway through.
Yeah, you are near the end of the avenue of investigation that you
probably
chose.
Just stick with it, I'd say. And
Okay.
Let him know if he does any more, because Well, that was his answer last time. Of do we change it to something else or go ahead?
Mhm.
He just said go ahead. So I imagine it wouldn't have changed.
In that case, do you want to carry on as you were going then?
Alright, yeah. If someone wants to roll for
For Vibers.
Already Vibers, thank you. What was it?
Okey-dokey.
It's engineering, isn't it? It's insight plus engineering, or is it reason plus engineering?
Let's see. Reason reason is higher on Vibers than insight, so a case can be made for either.
For reason.
So you guys were pursuing acoustics as the avenue that you wanted to create your sonic stun gun.
Mm-hmm.
So, insight and engineering will do fine. Who would like to take control of Vibers then? Let's see.
Does he? What is his engineering? Is it 4 or 5?
His engineering is 5.
And reason 11, I imagine. Yeah, I'd say I took a stab at it last time leading. I'm happy that to roll reverse as it's a 2, as we're technically a team.
Okay, so you would rather have Vibers take the lead and Edwards be the sub?
Yep.
Okay.
This time.
Jan, you game for taking control of Vibers for this particular role?
Sure.
Cool. Because if I roll it, it's going to go wrong.
It was reason and engineering and support.
No, you'd be leading. I'm supporting.
Oh, okay.
Hello, suitable substrate.
Statistically, Matt rolls a 9 and a 16, the most common. And he also rolls lots of more 1s, 2s, and 3s than he does 18s, 19s, and 20s.
Though I do believe he doesn't. Vibers doesn't have any focuses either, so it's just straight rolls, isn't it?
In this regard, yes, because none of Vibers' focuses or foci apply.
Okay. There's my support dice. One success.
Okay. 1 success, and the target is 4 successes. So 2 successes. Okay. You did generate enough successes to reach the end of this particular avenue of investigation. Sadly, it doesn't yield the exact results that you're looking for. You certainly create some kind of sonic resonant device, but there's something off in the implementation. I mean, if you wanted a sonic gun, this would probably be the way to go, but you've just as easily just made a miniaturized speaker. So, you know, when Shore Leave comes up, or when the Navis dance party happens, you've already got a ready-made speaker. Just don't turn up the volume too high, because last time you did that, you shattered all the glass in the science lab. So maybe turn down the power a little bit. So yes, acoustics wasn't totally the avenue that yielded the result you wanted. So that leaves you start of next episode to decide on a new avenue to take. So that's that path of research and development taken to its conclusion. So you can start on another one. Process of elimination. A scientific method. Keep trying until you find what you're after. Or
picking those things off the clipboard.
Indeedy-do. Okay, so before we get totally into the episode, we are 9 weeks past the events of the previous episode. So
Matt.
9 weeks. Sorry, yes?
Sorry. Quick thing. I see that I got the award from last thing, the Surgeon's Decoration.
Yep.
I got the large milestone as well, but I don't see the talents that I was putting on there unless it's there and I'm just blind.
Oh, did you? That's probably my mistake, actually. I didn't grab the talent you wanted. What was the talent you wanted?
It was the medical talent. I'm a doctor, not a ...
Of course it was. Well, you could probably get it yourself now in that case. If you go to the items directory, which is the one to the left of the open book, go to character talents, then the medical talents subfolder, and you should find it. I'm a doctor, not a... There it is. Yes, you now have the excuse to actually cite.
Yep.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
I'm a doctor, damn it.
Cools. In that regard, have I forgotten to do anything else in regards to other people's milestone spendage? I don't think I have. A good couple of you have actually got large milestones again now, so if you don't know of anything you want to put up on your characters, there is something you can increase on the ship. It's entirely up to yourselves. You can even spend them on supporting characters.
I'm going to spend mine on Claude. No,
That's entirely your prerogative if you wish to do it.
Lieutenant Replicator gets the promotion.
Matt?
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
Push my command security up, but sorry, you first, Gareth.
Yeah. I was just saying, do I have a minor milestone?
If you look in the journal entries area, there should hopefully be a folder that says character notes.
Ah, yeah. Yep,
and there's one for each of you, and it should have a list of all the ones that you've used. In fact, that now makes 2 large milestones you've used, isn't it?
Yep.
So let's alter that.
Alter that.
So that's the record I'm keeping of how many milestones each of you has acquired and how many you've spent.
Can I use a minor milestone in that case?
Of course.
Okay. I'd like to raise security by 1 and drop command by 1. So that I can then attach command to I'm a doctor, not a... Because I have to choose that at purchase.
So what you can do then is you can edit your character notes for me to represent that.
Yep.
You've spent a minor.
Yep. No, that's the close button. I want the...
there is like edit. When you hover over it, there is an edit.
Yep. So 1 minor and 2 large.
1 minor, 2 large. There you go. So you can now make the change on your character.
Yep. Oh, I accidentally gave myself security of 20. Well, also my Also my stress check has a 13 point in red.
Security and fitness are what comprise your stress track.
Right, I see. Cool.
So, actually, that doesn't quite make sense. Because fitness is 8, that should be 9, 10. You've got 13. Well, either way, putting up security does put up your stress, because training yourself more in security assumes that you've been, working out, or at least getting some extra security training means that you've probably been, spending time in the gym with the others.
Okay.
Boxing and whatnot.
You sound into Hulk Doctor.
So Moss can be green. I've slightly edited my talent fin to put a little note in saying that I've chosen command, because getting command, considering the last mission, seems to make more sense than the other 2.
All right then. Yep, so that's a good example of you guys being able to, make changes to your own characters.
Yeah. Was it allowed? Was it decided? For God's sakes. Start again. Disciplines can be upgraded with a large milestone, can't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's just check. Milestones. So if you're using a large milestone, then you can up an attribute, up a discipline, add a talent, add a focus, add a value.
Yeah. I'd like to push command up to 5 then.
Woo! Nice. So, if you can make the note of that change in your character notes, just so that I've got...
Detection again,
Sorry? So if you go to journal entries, the character notes folder...
journal entries, character notes, cool. So just take the one large out.
So just make a note that you've spent another large. So don't take them out of the ones that have accrued, because they help me count. Just put down what you've actually spent.
Okay. I have to check what medium milestones do, because I've still got 2 of them to spend. So
Those are in the rules folder.
Rules?
Can you see the rules folder in journal entries?
I have to read.
I'm afraid you do.
God.
Well, life pair? There we are, milestones.
Yep, so minors are mostly for swapping around disciplines and altering focuses. When you get to mediums, you can switch a pair of attributes around and replace talents. But then when you get to the big ones, you can just flat out add rather than swap.
Yeah, I'd be tempted if anyone. I can speak, honest. I would be tempted if everyone is okay with it of dropping Claude's science to 1 and security up to 5 with one of my medium talents.
Officer, though, not security officer.
But security plays a part in his ability to hit a target under combat.
True. If you want.
Sure.
Yeah. Claude needs to focus in security. He needs to be the best security person ever. Because damn it, he is Claude.
Oh, his stress goes up by 1 as well. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's an extra point of stress on Claude.
Wait, we can't push it past. You can push it past 5, can't you?
5 is the max.
5 is the max.
5 is the max, and I do believe 12 is the max for attributes.
You know what Claude calls being hit for square on by a photon torpedo? A good massage.
Caval's not going to the gym anymore. It's just disheartening.
Yeah. The fitness machines get fitter by Claude using them.
I think actually Caval's got a higher security than Andrews. Yeah, Andrews is only 4.
Yeah, but Andrews is going down the command route, isn't she?
Yeah. Well,
instead of actually hitting people with the atomic Andrews forearm, she commands them to use their finishers.
What are you going to say, Jan?
Caval's got the commanding presence of Moss.
I hasten to note, though, that Claude and Caval both have the same fitness and the same security, so in an arm wrestling match, it's a draw.
Hey, I'm more fit. I'm fitter than those 2. Nah.
Oh, there you go.
Do not make Claude break out the Claude Crusher.
Andrew's foci of avid runner.
Yeah, you know. Speed over size. Fitness over, you know.
Now you're saying Caval's chunky.
I'm saying he's ripped.
He's just determined.
Yeah. I will somehow outpace this literal slab of a man. Braggy. Well, quite.
Can I use my large one to boost daring to 11?
Absolutely, you can. So, just like the rest, if you can make a note of that in your character notes, that you have spent a large, then yes, absolutely, you can put one of your attributes up.
Are you pushing it to 11?
I am.
It goes all the way up to 11.
Okay, this is cool. It's finally seeing these guys.
Nova's just turning into mankind. You know, sort of like throw me off the top of the cage.
Steady now. I've seen the documentaries on how bad Mick Foley's actually injured after all of that nonsense. So.
Yeah.
Well, do we have a boiler room on the ship? Because I feel that could be a new quarters.
And that's our other cross-franchise comment of the night. So, yeah. There we go.
Star Trek and wrestling. You're surprised at how often they clash.
Well, we've already been insinuating that these guys have their own finishing and signature moves, so why stop there?
It's when that Klingon sort of like fighting competition we briefly briefed on is soon to start its tag team division. Will be ready.
It's in the middle of it. Oh my God! It's Bertram, and he's got a steel chair.
I'm pretty sure Bertram will work better as a manager. He can't beat sort of like the Bravo bomb or the Tick Attack.
That's why he's got a steel chair.
Yeah, that's what
he's interfering from the outside. Yeah.
Can't he throw moss in the guy's eyes?
The ref's unconscious. It's nothing that can happen here.
I already wrote the intro, remember? The Green Machine, the planter from Atlanta, Dr. Moss!
That's it. As well as changing the branding to be Star Trek plot, I'm going to start another game where I'm using the rules for those wrestling RPGs. Where you have to put points in not only your moves list, but also how well you do on the mic. You guys are going to kill it. Intergalactic Wrestling Federation.
Doctor,
Wrestling.
I can imagine Andrew's going, Doctor, can you give us a report on Admiral Stoker? Incoming report. Well, let me tell you something, sister.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah, he's going full Hulk.
What you gonna do when the greatest moss in the galaxy starts healing you?
Oh, sir. I got all goosebumpy then.
The Bertram Moss drop.
As opposed to a mic drop.
That's also the name of his finisher. It's a really crappy leg drop that has an overblown name.
I thought he just pulls a lever and a ton of moss just falls out of the sky.
Apparently,
I don't know how he got there. Just boom.
Apparently, that counts as using a foreign object. Perhaps we should let poor Matt actually begin the game.
Before I myself break off into a wrestling-based tangent, because I was about to quote Robbie the Brain Heenan there for a second, but yes, let me stop before I get too far. Whew. Okay, like I said, 9 weeks have passed since the end of the last episode and the beginning of this one. The Navis has been holed up at Narendra Station for most of that because the Captain Ducasse, has had to be debriefed for a lengthy period of time. So she's had to be cleared by fleet ops as well as medical to resume command. All manner of batteries of tests, including whether or not she's a shapeshifter or had been maybe kidnapped by the Dominion and hypnotized. Quite a few questions about how she found herself on a Klingon ship in these troubled times when the relationship between the Federation and the Klingons aren't all that great. So it's been 9 long, rather tedious weeks for the rest of the crew of the Navis, but finally, you have your captain back.
As Andrew's managed to catch up on the paperwork that Vibers failed to complete on his week of command.
More than likely, you had more than enough time. The only documentation work that was gotten done by Vibers when he was temporarily first officer for all of a couple of hours involved some kind of log about, damn it, I'm an engineer, not a... And it stopped there.
It was in order to improve the rate of the paper shredder.
We don't use paper anymore. We're in a digital age.
Yeah, that's why he had to get it improved, so he just started grinding up pads.
So, because there are only 5 of you tonight, I only get 10 threat. Dang it.
He says.
So, let's start us off then. Captain's log, stardate 49457.4. After 9 weeks of debriefings, I have finally been granted permission by Fleet Ops to resume my captaincy of the Navis. For our first mission, to give both myself and my crew a well-needed respite and some open air, I have selected a planetary survey mission of the uninhabited M-class planet of Pegasi V. I intend to use this time to reaffirm my bonds between myself and my senior staff, as well as try and recapture some of the spirit of adventure that saw each of us join Starfleet in the first place. And so, we move to where we actually start, on the surface of the M-class planet of Pegasi V.
There's too many Jenny Eric clones.
There are lots of Jenny Eric clones. That's because the captain insisted on, well, everyone coming down onto the planet themselves. Much to Vibers' chagrin. That's interesting to say, Vibers' chagrin. The captain requested all senior staff attend. As such, everyone was brought down on the Carpathian, which didn't crash.
I do like how Bertram is immediately being placed alone by the nearest tree.
Yep.
You know him very well.
So, Vibers has been busy staying as close to the runabout as possible by overseeing the equipment and muttering constantly to himself. Nova's off doing what Nova does. Some of the science crew are down here conducting their survey. As such, Natala's here to oversee her science lot. Lieutenant Turin is also present, as well as Edwards, and of course the captain, her first officer, and Cavall are all on the surface of the planet. So, yes, there's a display table set up in front of everybody so that folks can keep track of the teams that have been broken up to investigate different parts of the nearby area. As everyone is here just idly chatting, a member of the science team just comes up to Captain Ducasse, hands her a pad, at which point the captain dismisses the science officer to carry on. At which point, the captain states, "So, Team 3 have just finished their survey of Area 6. So let's see if we can't post them to... Let me see... Area 12 has not yet been fully surveyed. Oh, come on, everybody. Smile! Fresh air?
I would think that we would have more pressing missions to be attending to, Captain, but the fresh air is a welcome comfort.
Well, thank you. At least someone's seeing my point of view. I mean, obviously Bertram's having the time of his life over there.
So from some distance away, there's like a slightly muffled comment about, because interesting diversion in the foliage of these trees.
Yes, Natala's wandering back, going, always with them. Daddy. Survey mission, I'm here for the survey mission, I'm here for the survey mission, I'm here for the survey mission. Yes, you can all hear Vibers muttering and cursing to himself over there about something about being away from his engines. Hopes Bravo doesn't mess things up while he's gone. Nova, however, is having a perfectly brilliant time.
We're Latude's in command at the minute.
Yes. Be afraid. Okay. So, after a bit of natter and noticing other people who were just standing around going, why am I here? Cavall. Eventually,
Well,
Lieutenant...
it's not cold enough.
Yeah. There's a slight breeze on the wind, but yes, it's very bright, it's very green, it's climbing trees, swinging around the branches like a squirrel. I like how you're very specific about the animal that Nova's imitating there. Like a squirrel. Lieutenant Turin pops up at this point. Captain, Team 7 have reported something unusual near their last check vicinity. They were wondering if you wanted them to divert to investigate, or leave it alone. At which point the captain kind of strokes her chin, taps her forefinger against her lip, and goes, "Let me see that a second," and pulls the pad away from Lieutenant Turin. I think we'll take it. Tell Group 7 that they can proceed to area, let's see, 19. The command crew and I will take these strange readings. What do you think, XO? Up for a bit of adventuring?
Is it not against Starfleet protocol to send your entire command structure, Captain? But
oh,
I think
come
it would
on.
be interesting.
Exactly. It's an uninhabited planet. There's maybe small life forms about the place. There's nobody else here. The air's perfectly breathable. The climate is pleasant.
I would like to point out the last M-class planet that we went on to that was uninhabited turned out to have an ancient ruin on it, Captain. So,
what are the
see why
odds?
this-
I think the Shackleton Expanse is quite good.
Well, is there anyone you want to bring along specifically, just to watch our 6, maybe?
Well, like you said,
Me.
like you said, the command crew. I think Lieutenant Commander Vibers would potentially be a wise point, but I think he's busy sorting the.
Oh no, we can bring Vipers along. Kano! Over here, come on, it'll be fun! Vipers puts down his stuff and mutters as he comes over. I hope I'm doing Davis's Vipers justice here.
Depends, you've got to do some kind of zany tricks soon.
So our away team will consist of the entire senior bridge crew and science officer.
And Ensign Ricky.
Ah, crap.
You know what? I'm actually because we are oopsie-daisy, we are down at John. We can probably leave Natala behind. Just so that there's at least somebody responsible left, because she has to coordinate the science teams anyway. So it would make some sense for Natala to stay behind. Lieutenant Turin pipes up, though. May I join you? I see no reason not to, Lieutenant. Unless anybody else has any objections? Excellent.
You know she's a Vulcan.
Very astute, Commander.
I'm impressed we didn't traumatize her enough last time.
Wait, I just realised that Claude's not here. Claude's the command on the bridge at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Can we message the ship? We're like, hey Claude, you okay?
I'm fine, Commander. Thanks for asking.
Claude is fine. Claude speaks in third person. We have established this.
A bit harsh.
Hi. Alright.
Court is fine, Commander. Thank you for asking.
Webby, what have you done?
Can Claude help?
No, just checking in.
Oh, God.
Thank you for that. Andrew's out.
You're welcome, Commander.
Well, now that we've established that the Navis is still in one piece up above in orbit, how about we have a little expedition of our own? Oh, cheer up, Sophia, don't look so glum.
Sophia was probably... I need to take 5 minutes.
Take all the time you need to stop to stop the giggles, that's fine. Searching for nuts to bury for the winter. Nova, come on! You're on this team too. I might need an empath in case the rocks decide to revolt or something.
What are the odds of that in the Shackleton Nebula?
That's Claude.
Kind of want to say.
Caval's now paranoid about the rocks. How are we sure that Claude didn't speak to the rocks down here? Okay.
The Rocky Rebellion.
I assume, Captain, that we will be... Are we using the Carpathia, or are we...
Let's walk.
Okay.
I miss
That's
having a
fine.
nice walk. Let's walk.
I just wanted to confirm that Caval's not going to crash it.
We could fly it.
There's no s-
Oh, shots fired, Mr. Edwards. Shots fired.
If
I
there's no
haven't-
scratch,
I haven't
it
done
wasn't
it
pushed
yet.
hard enough.
The captain nods with an amused smile on her face at that. Just remember, if you break it, you fix it. Come on. Doctor, will you be joining us?
Very well, Captain. And I will come over and join the group.
Maybe we can find some different types of lichen the closer we get to this energy source, who knows? Probably some kind of magma deposit.
Be interesting if we came across any more anomalous moss that fed on esoteric food sources.
Oh, now wouldn't that be something? Mausoleum.
Sentient
No, of course not, Lieutenant Commander. I've built myself a small facility in my personal area of sickbay to make sure that the moss is kept safely and is kept safe.
What was that,
I've
Sean?
also,
saying the sentient rocks have got cultivated something.
Okie dokie. Well, without any further ado, you start walking off. Nope, everyone's apparently doing the magic roundabout, but is also trying to animate the fact that they're walking. Very nice. Natala is staying behind, so she is going to be coordinating the science teams. She's not sure if she's happy to be left off this little expedition or that missing out. I guess we'll have to find out. Nonetheless, go on.
She
Sorry.
gets to be in charge of the entire operation, though.
Mhm. You can see her there. So as Andrews looks back, Natala just starts rubbing her hands together gleefully. And gives a knowing wink to Andrews
Bring her back
as she
something
disappears. What was that, Sean?
I'll bring her back something dangerous.
Just so that you can have her say, you were carrying this in your pocket the whole time? The whole time.
Oh, this radioactive rock that's you've now got stage 3 radiation poisoning. Woo!
Again. Gives my skin a healthy glow, don't you know? Anyway. You do start trekking. Get it? Trekking. You do start walking off, and it's a good 3/4 of an hour standard that you're trekking off. The captain seems to be having far too much fun. But nonetheless, you all start coming across a short mountain range. The closer you get to the coordinates that the other survey team had recorded an energy anomaly. As you start getting closer, some of you start to make out signs in the surrounding soil that there is some evidence that there used to be some kind of building, some buildings here a long time ago, but they've since been reduced down to nothing but their outline, the outline of their foundations. So it seems there is evidence that this place was populated at some very distant point in the planet's past. Until eventually, you come upon...
Oh my god, it's the fabled monochrome trees. I thought they were a myth. Captain, I'm going to be staying here.
You've spent most of the time picking through ruins and searching the base of the mountain for an entrance to any kind of ancient complex that you might find, and somewhere under this mountain is this unidentified energy source. And eventually you do discover an entrance. A dark hole that seems to burrow deep into the side of the mountain for as far as you can see. As you start getting closer, though, the interior illuminates with a dim blue glow. Pulls out scanner. Thank you for saying scanner.
Woof.
Now, the first thing that Edwards notices when he consults this tricorder is that there's a fair amount of interference. So, if Edwards wants to give me a control and science with his focus of metallurgy, please. I'm going to make this a difficulty 1 check task. 3 successes, so you gain 2 momentum over what you needed. Cool. The tricorder is detecting magnesite deposits in the mountain, in the rock, which could account for the interference.
Does it literally do what it sounds like it does, or is there a bit more to it? As
It's
not the most trickiest of people here.
magnesite, so what it sounds like. Magnesite, pardon me.
I was going to say magnetite, yeah, so yeah, magnetic metals, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's a fair amount of magnetic particles. That's probably what's making the interference. However, it seems to be pretty plainly obvious that there's a light source coming from inside of that cave.
Just trying to guess if there's any kind of energy readings from it, or if it's natural or artificial.
Okie dokie. You can spend one of the 2 momentum you just earned if you want to get more of a scan. Or do you want to hang on to it? Or do you want to hang on to it and go closer for another investigation?
I'll probably hang on to it rather than spend it at this range.
That's fair enough. In which case, Lieutenant Turin will probably accompany Edwards a little closer then, in order to assist.
I think somebody with some security rating should also probably...
Mine is go a bit closer to compensate for this interference.
Okay, so Turin is willing to contribute in whatever fashion you want her to contribute. Probably in the scientific.
Would she be able to, or would we both be able to potentially recalibrate the tricorders to compensate for the magnetite particles?
Okay, that's a possibility, absolutely. That would be, so a recalibration would be very much a case of reason and engineering, I think, there, because you're trying to reorientate the scanners. Vibers would probably be a good one to have for this as well.
Would it be still using the focus of metallurgy?
To recalibrate the sensors of the tricorder, not in this instance, no. So, anyone who's got... Let me see.
This actually might be better for Vibers to lead, actually.
Yeah, in that case, I agree.
So,
Not many of it. I mean, it's
it's
got computers, which is close because technically the tricorder is a computer. So,
That's what I was thinking.
so yeah.
Wants to
So,
roll?
someone wants to roll for Turin.
And Vibers.
And Vibers. So, who wants to roll for Vibers? Gareth, you want to roll for Vibers?
Yep, sure.
Sean, do you want to roll for Turin?
Okay.
So, Turin is supporting, as is Edwards, so they roll Reason and Engineering. I don't think either of them get any focuses. In fact, I'm pretty sure neither of them do. Whoever wants to roll Vibers rolls 2 dice for Reason and Engineering. Can add his focus to it. I'm going to make this difficulty 3. And look at that,
That's
you've already
my
got
first.
3. But you
I
got a
think it's my first
complication.
one.
So you got 4 successes, so you got 1 over what you needed, but there was a complication. Okie dokie. So,
That is very Davis.
that is Navis, actually, yes. Quite right. So, let me see. So the trio start tinkering with the tricorders in order to try and get a better reading of what's inside the cave, trying to compensate for the magnetic interference. Meanwhile, Bertram, it's quite interesting how the trees around here are a kind of a dull grey colour. It's almost like the magnetite deposits in this area are so strong they've almost leached into the soil.
Interesting. Can I do a scan of the trees here and compare them to the scans I made of the trees further away to see if I find anything interesting?
Sure. I'm not going to ask for a task for that. It's
Okay.
mainly one for color.
I see what you did there.
So, yeah, they're the same. They have a familial. They're from the same family of trees, but obviously they've taken root in this area, which has got a pretty strong amount of magnetite mineral in the soil. So, yes. Now, in order to try and compensate for the magnetic interference, Vibers and the trio reorientate the tricorders. And, yeah, they now get a scan that there's definitely what seems to be an artificial power source, because the waveform of the energy is a bit too precise. There's no deviation whatsoever. It's far too constant to be a naturally occurring phenomenon. That being said, which of course makes the captain very interested, but that being said, as soon as the tricorders go on again, Caval gets this weird tingling sensation on his antennae, as if there's like a vibration in the air. And it's about this point that Nova starts sensing something. A rather primitive emotion coming from a primitive source, more than likely. And it seems to be one of discomfort and... the best you could equate it to is a kind of an animalistic territorial anger. It's at this point that all of you can hear a rumbling sound in the earth. And a load of animals, I say animals, obviously invertebrates, burrow their way up from underneath the surface. They are somewhat large, about the length of a domestic cat, but they look more like a slug, or a slug. Mollusk, as it says, a slug, isn't it? I'm not getting that wrong. Or am I getting that wrong? A mollusk is a shelled one. Either way. Best... Captain, I think we awoke the ancient rocks you were looking for. I think we're in their territory. Yes, so these rather large slug-like creatures come up from underneath the Earth. The main difference between these slugs and Earth slugs, besides their size, is the fact that the front area where a slug's mouth is, there's like a lamprey circular mouth with lots of serrated teeth that circle back and forth almost like a drill, and their backs, along their backs, rather than just being a slimy body, their backs are covered in kind of like a chitin shell, like armor plating. And they not happy. So, what you gonna do? They're roaring in.
Do they look? If they look generally hostile, then I think defensive positions and.
Oh yeah, they don't look happy, and they're baring their teeth, and they're kind of issuing this weird hissing sound.
And Bertram fall back a bit.
Oh, obviously, definitely.
Damn it, man! I'm a doctor, not a frontline fighter.
So, does anyone know anything about this particular species?
The xenobiologists.
So, Bertram,
Go
get him, Bertram.
Armor suits. Do they look like the trees and stuff like that may have adapted to the presence of magnetite in the soil?
Yeah, it's entirely probable.
Okay.
They are drawing closer.
That probably means they have a very high melting point, so they're probably going to be very endurant and probably are going to potentially may even cause like interference at very close range. From what I remember about magnetite's magnetic properties.
So
they may even have a resistance to phasers unless we literally turn on to a level that we'd normally use for boring through mountains.
Quick question. So they potentially have magnetite in their system if they're used to having to bore through it and ingest ground. Correct?
It would explain their armored look.
Anyone able to polarize them?
The one closest to Andrews lunges and tries to take a bite. Can I get Andrews to give me a daring and security check, please? Takes out Ushantor.
Daring security.
Daring and security.
Survival training for a guy? Battlefield tactics then, or advanced hand to hand.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Wouldn't they need
technically
the right amount of electrical charge to potentially charge one of them, have them get attracted to each other?
To do that, we'd have to actually produce some equipment and actually attach it to them.
We've got an engineer with a toolkit, and I imagine one of us has a phaser at least.
You're really overthinking about how to sort of like attack slugs.
What did you roll, Webby?
I rolled a 20 and an 18.
It's more less trying to...
I didn't see those because I lost connection to the server just as you rolled.
Oh my god!
Roll again!
The slugs are interfering with the server.
I need to make sure that this
goes
through.
It wouldn't necessarily involve us killing them.
Alright, did you see me just roll that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Alright, so my connection is back. So you rolled an 18 and a 20, you say?
Complication.
Complication, which means the slug won that exchange.
Ow.
So this thing's teeth are really, really, really sharp. Obviously made for boring through rocks, so it takes a chunk out. It manages to bite a chunk out of Andrews's leg.
I think we need to fall back to the cave.
That is a fine idea, Mr. Edwards. I heartily agree with this one. Everyone fall back.
The order will be for Caval and Andrews to be the back flank. Or
Okay.
to be the rear guard.
These things start hissing
Can we make
and are a
defensive
bit
shots at
slow.
them?
Yeah.
The ones that get nearest.
Who's gonna? Well, I imagine Andrew's gonna shoot first. Because Caval took out a Zushantor rather than a phaser.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're backing up a
Control
bit,
security.
Control security.
Is this where I can use battlefield tactics?
This is where you can use battlefield tactics.
Yeah.
3 successes. Okay, the phaser shot fires out and it rebounds. It just what's the word I'm looking for? Reflects right off the hardened carapace.
ricochet, sort of.
Yes.
So while falling back, Edwards just wants to, while he's got the tricord out, wants to at least try and get at least a passing scan of these.
And just as you're about to do that, even though they're very slow to approach you, they the ones at the back curl up into a ball, and they start rolling towards you really quickly.
Run.
Okay, run.
So, you start to run. So orientate your order as you want it to. I'm assuming that one, but you can always reorientate it how you want.
So we arrived from the north.
You arrive from the north, yes, and the passage seems to indicate south. You can all see this map, all right? Yep.
Yep.
Wicked.
Are they actively following us into the cave system?
Well, as Edwards and Vibers get there, there's the sound of rocks falling, and a couple more emerge from out of the holes they just made in the rock face. And yes, the ones behind you are still following too.
Oh, poop.
Okay, I think we're being
Funnels.
funneled. Keep going.
As the captain's running, she just starts muttering, "Bloody difficult. Just once. Normal survey mission. Was that too much to ask?"
You always bring us on the best holidays, Captain.
In the Shackleton Expanse, it is apparently.
Some more emerge from the tunnel, whilst others are curling up into their ball form in order to almost comically bounce down the cave system. You are able to fire a couple of phaser shots back to try and make the rock face explode, but it has minimal impact at slowing them down too much, but it gives obstacles for them to have to bounce across, which knocks a few of them off course. As you get past here, more of them are starting to join, as there's a excessive amount of hissing going on now, as these creatures seem to have alerted their brood mates that you're all there. Just keep running! Sorry, what was that, Sean?
Other steps and things actually there, do they look man-made? Or...
Yeah, steps are there. That's weird. As was quoted from another science fiction film, God doesn't tend to build in straight lines. So having actual steps here is a bit weird. So, you hurtle.
We
Go on.
haven't actually tried an emergency transport. I assume that we haven't got comms with the Navis.
The moment you slap your comm badge, you get crackles of interference.
Edwards would point out that the interference I was getting from the interference with my scanning before would probably have the same kind of effect for anything coming in or out of here. So,
Okay, you eventually wind your way down a couple more stairs. But how many of you managed to outrun the slugs? Let's have a look. Well, you can do it as a team, or you can do it individually. I want a fitness plus security task to see how well you outrun them.
I'd probably be best to take the lead on that.
Okay.
And then I could also then use follow my lead for the
Okay.
Yeah.
during combat or a perilous situation. You may spend determination if you do choose one single ally in the next task that the ally attempts.
All right then.
Are you using the avid runner foci that we were
Alrighty.
talking about
Yes,
earlier?
indeed. You never knew I had that in store, did you? Yay! I get to use it. 2 successes. So Andrews definitely makes it. So doing that,
But
you use...
Andrews is basically going to be holding the kind of the rear lock guard.
Yep.
To try and push the last person, the slowest person forwards the quickest.
Might
so
be
then
me.
it's Command. That's what's received. So if you do spend, right, suspend the determination.
So the next best person to do a fitness and security task would more than likely be Caval. But that's up to you guys. Don't let me push you into a...
Oh, that makes sense.
So who would like to assist? Because Andrews can now assist on that, can't she? Because of what she's just done.
President's command.
Only if I have to.
Is
So-
it 1 or 2 die with the follow my lead perk? It doesn't actually say.
Well, let's see. You choose a single ally. The next task that ally attempts counts as having assistance from
Oh,
you,
having assistance. Those, yeah, assistance. is
using
one die.
presence plus command. So it's a 1 dice jobby. But by doing that yourself and getting them to do a second one, it has added extra momentum to the group pool. So that's not a bad choice at all.
Can I use foci on that?
Yeah,
Survival training to basically
Yeah.
push the.
I'm game for that. Yeah, totally. So that's 1 extra success. So Caval can be the lead on a fitness and security check. Nova's fitness level is pretty good, so she could support. Who else has got a reasonably good fitness?
Claw has.
Glort's on the ship.
Apparently we've brought him along.
You say he's on the ship, as you just see the breaching
Oh,
atmosphere.
yeah.
It's just a rock. He's just curled up. Just boom.
He does the Halo ODST trooper and just lands sort of like Superman Superman landing onto the ground, just right on top of one of the slugs.
No, running bomb. He's got his own diving board out the back of the ship.
Right, so Nova is helping. If nobody else wants to help, then
How many dice? One more. I can give it a go, but it's not going to go well.
okay.
Oh, it hovered on the floor.
Okay, so it's Caval's only going to be able to roll 2 dice because you've already had 1, 2, 3 assists. Not they've assisted. Well, Andrews is the one who's assisted the most.
It goes nothing.
3 successes, so yes. With Andrews at the back and Thazanan taking the lead, you guys do manage to outpace the slugs quite well. It gives you a really nice lead on the creatures. And as you tumble down these steps at speed, you enter a large chamber. The chamber has glowing blue crystals in its walls, which are now pulsing with energy. As well as these glowing blue crystals, there are more than a few like runic carvings in the walls too, which of the like that you have seen before. And of course, in the middle of the room is a tall, 5-sided monolith.
Does it look familiar?
Well, it certainly bears an uncanny resemblance to all the ones you've seen previously. And it is it starts to glow at your approach. Those of you at the back, you notice that the slugs unfurl themselves and don't seem to be coming any closer.
Can I scan the area to see if there's anything coming up with these crystals that glow that might be harmful, that might be what the slugs are being repelled by?
Well, you can certainly try.
Okay. And if I Anything in particular I should roll? I assume it's going to be a science roll.
So, yeah, control plus science will do.
Okay. I'm going to assume none of my focuses really apply to this.
Not particularly.
Okay. 2 successes.
It's unclear, but you are reading a build-up of energy in this room.
Okay, I'll immediately say that out to the rest of the group, that there's a build-up of energy going on in this room.
The floor starts to glow a bright blue.
Whip out the tricorder and just start scanning the monolith.
You are definitely reading a power emanating from the monolith, and it's growing more and more powerful.
Any particular type of energy signature?
Well, it seems vaguely familiar, but you have to smack the tricorder a couple of times from the interference. You're not quite sure where you've seen this energy signature before, but before you can actually rack your brain to remember where it is, your skin starts to prickle as you realize that you suddenly cannot move your limbs, any of you. A white light envelops you, and a tingling sensation like a transporter beam pulses through your core. And seconds later, the tingling sensation changes to a burning, as if every cell in your body is on fire. Your vision returns. As you take in a chamber, not unlike the one you just left. Only here, in place of stone walls, is a massive viewport, a window that looks out over the stars as far as the eyes can see. Stars in the form of a pattern, a swirling pattern.
Get his tricorder out, continue scanning.
The moment that you realize you can move again, there's a short fizzle and a bang from somewhere, and whatever limited illumination there was when you arrived has now gone. The chamber that you now find yourselves in has been plunged into semi-darkness, dim light. You can still make out the outline of things around you.
Can I take this moment to examine the wound that Andrews has, in case
Yes.
there's any nastiness from those slugs, infections or anything?
Alright, so that's a control plus medicine by the sounds of it.
Okay. Biology as a
Yep.
focus?
That's fine with me. Best holiday ever. Biology is a focus, yes, absolutely. That's fine.
Okay. 2 successes.
2 successes. So, mostly superficial. Considering what those slugs are apparently more used to boring through with their teeth, it's a miracle Andrews' leg wasn't taken off, which suggests the animals were more doing it as a warning than anything else.
That was a warning bite.
Yes.
Okay,
that's
I'll
nice.
do the magic wand wave to make sure that any bleeding stops and stuff, so
Yeah.
she isn't bleeding up.
So, yeah. Superficial can easily be healed.
That's nice to know that that was a warning shot.
The captain looks around and just puts her fists on her hips and goes, "Typical. Bloody typical. All I wanted was a nice, simple, run-of-the-mill, boring survey mission. I should have known." Oh, and she holds her finger up without actually facing anybody. The first person, I swear, the first person to mention about the protocol of not taking the entire command staff, I'll have you on latrine duty for a month.
Andrews is going to stay quiet because she already mentioned that.
Yep.
Andrews just kind of glares at the rest of the crew. It's like, say nothing.
All right. Well, I suppose we've got to figure out where we are.
Edwards is going to continue trying to scan this tricorder, not saying a word.
Okay.
Edwards.
Edwards can give me a control plus science check then, please. Anything
Any
particular he's
foci?
looking for?
Good question. That's probably just some of the things around the room. Because obviously, some look like devices. So we're in some. Oh yeah, we can't see. You said, don't you? We're in pitch black.
You can see. It's just everything's not brilliantly lit. But there's definitely light coming from the eastern end.
Definitely surrounded by machinery of some sort.
Yes.
So it's trying to work out what their function is to try and identify what it could be.
Is it worth, rather than just one person doing everything,
The group do it.
up as a group and actually take different areas to see if we can find additional information?
Caval wants
Anybody
to
recognise the stars?
look through the viewport. Yeah.
Okay, so Caval, yep, you can look through the viewport.
I'd say would it potentially be
Which is this
metallurgy
one here?
or ancient technology foci?
Sure, because she has similar, Turin will partner with Edwards. Who would be good for...
You said she was going to be assisting, so...
Yeah, so...
Overall, it's supposed to roll for her.
Someone else can roll for Turin, absolutely, whoever wants to. Sean, you want to roll for Turin?
Okay.
It's just going to be control plus science assisting, because she's using a tricorder. In the meantime, can I also get Caval to give me... let me think. Reason plus con, please, with astronavigation as a focus. Turin 1 success, 4 successes altogether on that, so I'll get straight back to that as soon as... Good lordy, Jan! What is it with you?
You look out and go, oh yes, we're in this star system at this point with this navigation at this time of day.
Alright, with that spectacular success, I better alter my description a little bit then.
You forgot to add 500 years ago.
Because hey, I can see those Starfleet pirates' base from here.
Wow, right, okay. So I'm just going to quickly get to Edwards and Turin. This machinery seems to bear a very strong resemblance to a transporter pad, but on a much bigger scale. Which explains the odd, yet familiar energy reading you had, because it seemed to be some kind of transporter beam activating. The worrying thing, of course, about this being a transporter room is that there's now no power, apparently. Now, Thazanan. As soon as Caval gets through the viewport, there's a very bright, swirling starfield that he can see. But as he looks out over the other stars through this viewport, that his antennae sink in realization. You are looking out over the Milky Way galaxy. Caval reckons that wherever this place is, you're at the very, very edge of the Milky Way galaxy, at the tip of one of the spiral arms. So you've somehow traveled millions of light years. In fact, if and with those levels of successes, if Andrews asks, where are we? Caval can probably trace his finger along the arc of one of the spiral arms and then point to roughly the place where the Shackleton Expanse should be and where the Pegasi system should be.
So we have just travelled effectively millions millions of light years. Well, no. I try and remember. I should know the actual diameter of the Milky Way galaxy. That annoys me. Uh, 52,000 light years in the space of a couple of seconds, potentially, or up to.
The captain audibly sighs. Well, that's just great.
Just another day.
Quite. It's about this time that you hear the murmuring of voices interrupt your revelry, reverie, as several people enter the chamber from one of the archways not far from the viewport. They are tall and slender, with largish heads. One of them bearing more vividly coloured patterns than the other three. They wear long flowing robes of muted yellows and greens. They're huddling near the entrance, watching you and whispering to one another. After a few moments of urgent discussion amongst themselves, they turn towards you, each of them dropping to a knee and bowing their heads. The alien closest to you, the one with the striking colouring on their facial ridges, spreads its arms wide and looks up at you, speaking. And you're not quite sure what they're saying. So, yes.
What are they feeling when they're doing it, though? Are they giving off any sort of emotions, or...?
Yes. Or...
He's the universal translator in his own xenolinguistics to try and work out the language.
Okay. Yeah, the captain's moving over and just basically nudges and whispers, Edwards, make sure the universal translator's working.
Everyone's gonna mimic their actions.
Okay. So, first things first. Can we have... Let me see. I'm going to go with an insight plus science check with xenolinguistics for Edwards. But I am going to have... and I'll roll for this. I'll have Turin aid. She doesn't have a focus exactly, but she is going to aid for a specific reason that I will make clear in a moment. So this is difficulty 2. Hand on hand phase. Okay.
I was like, given how what's generally gone on, and this, I imagine Edwards is partly blown away. Could I argue for seeing is believing? For determination.
If you want to use a point of determination, yeah,
I'd say cracking the language probably would be a priority, and also the fact is they're bowing in worship. This is like, I would not have believed it in his wildest dream that someone would be bowing like that to him.
Yeah, I'm fine with you using a determination for that. 5 successes. You got loads over and above. So as you're fiddling with the universal translator, it's these creatures are still talking and making sentences and whatnot, and the universal translator is having some problems with it. But then you hit on an idea as you start listening. The rhythm and flow of what they're saying, of the way they're saying it, rings really, really familiar. And it's as you look over at as Edwards looks over at Turin with like a, just with like a, she can see in Edwards' face that it's like there's something naggingly familiar about this. And she kind of cocks her head sideways in that very bird-like Vulcan fashion. Being of no help, Edwards, with Turin being of no help, Edwards is just there going, why does this feel so familiar? And then looks to his left and notices the monolith. And as he looks over the monolith, it twigs. The rhythm of the language sounds as familiar as the few snippets of quote-end-quote language that you've come across in the ancient scribblings that are on the monoliths and the other things that you've found. And as soon as you hit on that idea, Edward starts punching that into the universal translator, drawing upon his own notes as to his own observances of the linguistics of the monoliths and the other ancient alien ruins. And as you start programming this into the universal translator, it starts to lock. And the universal translator starts translating. At which point, the lead alien's speech goes from being a bunch of garbled nonsense to, "Welcome, messengers. I am High Curate Meharon. We are honored at your return."
It sort of makes sense because I can't remember the actual
vocabulary
part would be the miss. Oh no, the actual listening to them speak it would be the missing link because he's only seen it written and stuff. So it's the first time he's actually hearing them sounding out the vowels and bits. So
Turin kind of raises her eyebrow at that and goes, "An ingenious solution, Mr. Edwards."
Perhaps it might be worthwhile bringing hello out as well, Nova.
Did you bring hello? Didn't. Always brings hello.
Oh, should have bought it if she was allowed to.
You were on a planetary survey mission, though, weren't you?
Yep.
So you wouldn't necessarily have brought hello out in all his cumbersome glory. Its cumbersome glory.
I don't think the captain allowed it because she wanted a steady mission.
Yeah, it's just a survey mission, so we'll have to leave hello and the universal interface back at the ship.
Would Edwards be able to send basically this translation or any of the other parties translators if they have them?
Well, as soon as the universal translator itself picks it up, it'll transmit what the universal translator is picking up into everybody's comm badges, and therefore everyone now hears the translation.
Okay, good. As long as at least there's a backup in case anything happens to the translator he's got.
Yeah.
Okay. Captain?
Yeah. She said messengers, right? I got that correct? You got that correct?
It also said that we've been here before.
The aliens now look quite taken aback. "We can understand you. Of course we can understand you. Welcome, messengers. There is much for you to see."
Edwards is still looking to the captain. At this point in time, he's like...
Captain, I assume that they're being... I assume that... Well, they're not being hostile.
No, they're not.
Being welcoming. I don't believe we have much choice but to follow them, Captain.
Indeed. My name is Captain Adriana Ducasse. These are my crewmates. The aliens kind of whisper to each other up and go, "Crewmates? We do not understand." Ducasse kind of looks back at Edwards as if to say, "That thing's still working, right? You translated my words." To the best of Edwards' ability, the answer is yes.
Might be the concept they're struggling with.
No, what are they feeling?
Triantinates.
Or what?
A little bit of trepidation and anxiety as well.
I do feel pretty pleased to see us, though.
Might be worth changing that to travelling companions.
Okay.
Subordinates, maybe. It's they're probably not familiar with the term when it comes to crew. Or ships, they might have something else they consider for that particular bit of language.
Now, once again, sorry, I interrupted you there.
Traveling companion.
So, as I've mentioned previously, with when the captain is along for the ride, as it were, even though I'm technically the voice of the captain, in instances like this where you want interaction, it makes sense for the captain to be interacting with the aliens. But you guys do have say on what the captain says and does, so
He said it was to defer to the commander.
So the most obvious thing that the captain would say at first would be in regards to you all came here by accident. If you're all right with that.
I think also as well asking the question of what is this place?
Okay. What do the rest of you think? Anything else anybody wants to add to that, or want to word it differently? Nope. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
So, yes, the captain is... we came here by accident. We had no intention of actually coming here. We were on another planet, and then we were here. Can we ask, where is here? The aliens at this point, they're all looking very uncertainly at one another, and the one at the front leans in almost conspiratorially towards the captain and yourselves. Is this a test, messenger? So how would you like to respond to that?
Shall we start this conversation again? Treat us like we have not been here before.
I think the word needs to
the lead alien, she looks at you strangely, but then she seems to come to a realization and of course, I understand. Testing us. Very good.
I think we should ask them if all the preparations have been made.
What do the rest of you think?
Would we be saying anything that makes us out to be these messengers? Isn't that kind of against things like the Prime Directive, pretending to be aspects of a community that we're not, beyond making sure that we don't contaminate another society?
It's a good point. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, asking them if they've made preparations is not telling them they should have done something. It's asking them whether they have done something they were preparing to do anyway.
Yeah.
It's the Ghostbusters principle. Sort of roll with it, and probably less consequences will come to bodily harm.
Okay.
I think we're not going to declare him a god. I'm all right. Edwards is willing to go along with it, mainly because we don't know how they'll react to if we say no, we're not. We're in a very advanced place. We don't know how terrible our position is and how close we are to potential death. Though he obviously will defer to the more senior operatives that have, done this type of thing before, or at least come close to it.
But that's Edwards' main concern.
Very much the
Right.
whole, if we go against it, they may turn on us. We don't know exactly. I imagine if they think if we're impersonating gods, might go wrong.
Okay.
I mean, initially.
So, up for asking Caval's vague yet vaguely specific question. Okay. Have they made...
disagree?
I'll go with the silence as a no. No one disagrees. Okay. So, have they made preparations? The lead alien, Meharon, you gain the impression it's a she, or at least a female of the species. Meharon straightens and has a very enthusiastic air about her at this point. Of course, messenger. All the preparations have been made, as appropriate. And fitting, of course, for the messengers of the gods themselves. It'll take a little time to fully finalize all the preparations, but if you would follow us, we can take you to the main chamber and introduce you to everybody else. So, are you guys gonna go along with this?
We don't really have much choice.
Okay.
Plus, Starfleet is naturally scientifically curious.
One thing, when they turn around so we start moving, I want to set my tricorder to start scanning the environment. Because well, it seems at the moment we're able to live here, so there's not like, directly poisonous or incompatible air on a major level. I want to make sure that there's no subtle differences that might have a degrading effect over time, given that it's an unknown alien race with an unknown biology, and we are way out of our Starfleet's normal sphere of influence. I want to make absolutely sure that we're not basically slowly sort of like corrupting our biological systems through subtleties in the air we're not noticing and having an immediate effect. Or not just air, or other things, like maybe there's some sort of radiation of the machinery here that's harmless to them, that they don't intend to harm us, but might be harmful to us over time either.
Okay.
That sort of thing, basically.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. So you'll be doing it from a mostly purely medical standpoint.
Yeah.
Can I get Nova to give me a control plus science? Science? I'll go with engineering, actually. Can I get Nova to give me a control and engineering check? I will allow you your inner workings focus. So it's in a similar vein, but approaching it from more of an engineering perspective. So the medical side of things for Bertram, but the engineering side of things for Nova. These will both be difficulty 1 checks. So controlled medicine for Bertram with... his usual focus is on biology.
Yeah.
Nova can do the same with a different one. Ooh, Nova gets 3. Awesome.
I would like to point out that my question has opened us. My question has opened us to the possibility of claiming we are merely the vanguard here to inspect the preparations. We are not actually messengers of the big shot messengers of the gods.
So is this... sorry to interrupt you there, Barry, just for my own clarification. Is this Jan stating the point, or is this Caval actually stating out loud to either the captain or the crew or the aliens this point?
Well, Caval would whisper it to the captain, but not state it out loud.
Right. So you're just making sure that you've created a loaded question, but it's up to them to interpret, and you never act. You can then come back on it and say, "I never said I was." Basically.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Bertram, there was a complication.
Yep.
All right. So, yes, the captain agrees with Caval's point that you at least used you worded the question in such a way that you neither confirmed nor denied you were exactly what these people assume you are. Bertram's analysis suggests that this place is mostly sterile, but there are bacteriological traces in the air that, while they don't suggest themselves to be dangerous to any of you guys, the certainty of it is still a bit airy-fairy, because these are bacteriological life forms, to put it the only way I can think of, that you haven't come across before.
Right.
So they're full effects. There's only small traces of this bacteria in the atmosphere, which suggests to you that there's obviously a life support mechanism on this place.
Yeah.
but in how good nick it is, the bacteriological the bacteriological traces in the air suggest that you've got a life support system that's maybe not on its way out, but can certainly use a good bit of looking at maintenance, perhaps.
Yeah.
In a similar fashion. Sorry, what you were going to say?
I was going to say I'll advise the captain that.
Yeah.
And as I kind of a follow-in for that, I'd suggest that if they provide us with any food or drink, we should carefully scan that to make sure there's not some sort of subtle contamination or bacterial thing in it if we can't ascertain that this place is 100% sort of safe life support wise.
Fair and good. Now, on to Nova. Nova gets a darned good read on the near area, and one of the first things that Nova notices is that this definitely has the makings of a massive transporter pad, which suggests that the power output for this thing should be pretty huge. However, this room seems to have its power system seems to have shorted out. And from the readings that Nova's getting on her tricorder, this place hasn't seen proper maintenance in a long, long time. Now, the exact length of time is difficult to determine, but it certainly looks like this place hasn't seen any occupation, let alone maintenance, for quite a while. But those scans that Nova takes also lend themselves to a scan of the nearby environment, and it seems that you're in a sealed structure of some kind, which suggests there's either an inhospitable atmosphere outside or there's no atmosphere outside of this facility. As I've already noted with what Gareth had, evidence of the life support mechanism in here suggests that it's on and working, but again needs proper maintenance. And the power systems, as you start walking through the corridors led by these aliens, the power conduits and other power systems as you walk look frayed. Again, like nobody's been properly looking after them in a while. So every now and then, as you walk down some of these corridors, there's the occasional sputter of lights as they flicker in and out of luminescence. Occasionally you'll move past a door that half opens on its own, then closes. And once or twice there's actually a spark from a nearby console or a junction box. The technology seems pretty advanced if it weren't in such a state.
It seems similar to what we've already found in the other
places?
monoliths and stuff.
Yeah, using what you found on Bacchus 4 again, because that was the most intact facility that you so far found. Yes, a lot of the construction methods of the technology are almost spot on. The only difference, of course, was that the ones on Bacchus 4 were almost like, no time had passed at all. Whereas this place, as I've mentioned just before, it's wearing down, and nobody's looking after it properly. Any more questions or observations that you would like to make whilst you're being led through a network of corridors? Okay.
I'm thinking of how to word it. I potentially want to ask about the messages that came before, sort of like work out when that was, but I don't want to. Someone to try to help me try to word it in a way it's not going to make us seem. Well, it's going to give us away. So they think it was us. I was just like, how? But.
Okay, so you somehow want to get some
information about basically the messages that turned up last time.
Okay.
They did refer to us as messages again. They said, "You've returned." Did I mishear that?
You did not mishear it. If you ask in a... okay, so you've said as much that you want to ask it in such a way that you don't... You want to word it in such a way, a bit of linguistic trickery that suggests you're asking without giving that you're actually... You know, who are you expecting, actually?
Exactly.
Are you sure we're them? So, yeah. If no one else can think of a clever way of wording it, I will assume a clever way of wording it. Or indeed, one or both of the command pair can try an assisted, presence and command check to see if they can word it diplomatically. If you want to try that way. But you have got full momentum, so I'm game for it just being a suggested course of linguistic action.
Please say something.
Nobody's got any... Do it?
It's presence and command from the command crew.
Okay. So, who hasn't rolled in a while?
Nova's only at 5 dice roll.
Okay, then so, for one of the few times that you actually get to be captain, Sean, can you be Captain Casse doing a presence and command check, and I imagine Andrews is going to be aiding?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. The captain has got composure, so she can use that. Oh dear. There's another complication for you.
So tonight's number 1 number is 13, followed closely by 20 and 2.
Oh, wow.
Two on the nights.
So, Andrews opens up the question with, so who are these messengers you're expecting? Before she manages to catch herself in the faux pas, but the captain kind of talks over her as quickly as she can. Insofar as what is the time, as far as you're concerned, since the messengers last appeared? At which point Andrews kind of gives a thank you nod to the captain. Right, so Meharon, who seems to be doing all the talking for this group, says that the Covenant have been expecting the messengers of the gods to return for generations. The messengers are foretold to return, upon which we are to greet them accordingly and show them what we have managed to accomplish. But of course, you already know that. You're just testing me.
Does there seem to be many more people around, like more mines and things across this?
Yes, definitely.
Derelict station.
As you're moving through more and more corridors, you get the occasional glance of people coming out to see to see who's going past, and as the aliens leading you finally come to a set of doors that opens out into a larger chamber, there are certainly lots more mines that you make contact with. So as you arrive, you are shown to a platform that overlooks a central overlook, almost, which has a large, well, you hope it's not glass, wall at the southern end compared to where you're standing, that just looks out over space, which suggests that you are in some form of space station. On this rise, there are a number of high-backed chairs for very important people, and Meharon High Curate Meharon indicates that you should sit in these obviously very important chairs for very important people. And a whole load of these other aliens now start coming out of their various rooms and out of the doorways that lead into corridors to see who has arrived. As you're all awkwardly trying to decide whether or not you want to sit down or not, as most of the chatting people assemble, chatting aliens assemble, High Curate Meharon holds her hands up for silence as she says, "Behold! The messengers of the gods have returned, as was promised. We must, as custom dictates, now show them what it is that we have accomplished in the name of the gods, so that the messengers may take word of our good deeds and how that we have cared for this place as they charged, and reward us accordingly." Meharon claps twice, and the folks start busying themselves. They start to bring out all sorts of stuff. Some start bringing out what look like musical instruments. Tables start getting set out with all manner of weird and interesting foods set upon them. Children start coming out with various dolls and toys that they seem to have fashioned out of pretty much anything they can find. Some with, pipes or wiring and stuff like that. And High Curate Meharon comes to you all and says, "If you will please sit, the people now wish to show you what they have accomplished in your honor." And she waits for you to sit down. Well, if they hold the messengers of the gods as highly as they seem to, you would hope they wouldn't make fun of your antennae.
There are more of us than there are seats.
Yes, quite.
Speaking of which, they don't seem to be fazed at all by the fact that we are different species.
Indeed.
Well, going by the appearances of the tokens, if they're accurate, there do seem to be some cosmetic differences between members of their own species, assuming that they are a single species themselves.
Yes. So you do notice there's commonalities, but there's also differences. Certain ones of them, in a similar but not identical fashion to High Curate Meharon, have striking coloration along their heads. But yeah, some of them seem to have taller, slightly more sinuous bodies. Others are a bit shorter and a bit more blunt-headed. Others, like I said, have got colorings not dissimilar. So the ones that are more light grey with the very tall breasts, they seem to hold themselves. They seem to have more of a almost an aristocratic cast to them, whereas the ones with the long necks are the taller ones, which leaves the other ones as this somewhat. They're not stunted, but they're definitely slightly shorter, but more blockily built. And the majority of the aliens seem to follow one of those three specific types, let's say. And yeah, before long, the form of celebration starts. As music is started up and people start to, those who aren't taking part clear a space, and in the middle of the chamber, some people start to do dancing. The captain is doing her best to look like she's enjoying herself, but she looks very uncomfortable. And she kind of lightly double taps her comm badge, which is usually which is, and I say usually, is actually the protocol for creating kind of like a private comm channel, just for you guys to hear. We need to find out who these people are and what exactly they're expecting of us, where we are, what's going on. So we need to start asking pointed questions. The trouble is, how do we do it? We need to mingle.
There is one member of the group that seems different from all the others, Captain. It might be a good start.
Yes, indeed. Well, you're the one who's not seated currently, Andrews. Maybe you can try wandering? The rest of you, I don't know. Try and see if you can find something out about this place.
Let's just kind of slip away a bit more, see if anyone
Woo,
made
too
me
loud.
notice.
I accidentally turned the volume up way too loud there, whoops. My pardon. 2 successes, trying to slip away quietly. Okay, nice, give a blanket. Roll for these guys. 1 success, so yeah. There's enough of you still on the podium that those who are watching on the top podium with you, who are also paying attention to what's going on in the middle, that Andrews is able to just slowly maneuver herself in such a way that she comes around. Yes, the one that you're next to, the one that looks slightly different, he's still got the colouring and the high ridge that the other more noble caste ones do. He's wearing the same kind of colour robes, but rather than being one who seems to be enraptured by not only what's going on in the middle of the chamber and yourselves, he just seems to be lost in his own thoughts. And as much as you can tell with these people, you have their facial expressions are just about expressive enough that he does seem to be lost in his own thoughts, and not necessarily in a good way.
There seems to be an awful lot of preparation going at front, but you're lost in thought.
He startles when he realizes you're there. Oh! Do excuse me, messenger. I did not mean to offend. I will pay more attention.
I'm just merely curious as to why you seem less focused than everyone else.
It is not necessarily my...
Speak freely. You're entitled to do so.
That's just the thing, messenger. I am a functionary, not a curate. I do not have permission to speak in situations such as this.
Surely, if a messenger demands it, you are obligated to answer.
He seems to consider Andrews for a good bit. You're really not who they're expecting, are you? A messenger would know. Protocol. We of the... Sorry.
You could say that we are unenlightened messengers.
Then how may I assist you, messenger?
Just be honest with us. Tell me what's going on.
We are the Covenant. That is what we call ourselves. We inherited, so we're told, custodianship of this place. from the gods. We are meant to keep this place in pristine condition. The curates are the ones who speak for us. We, the functionaries, are the ones who are meant to see to the function of our home, and the blessed are those who protect us physically from those who would seek to harm us. That is how things have been since the beginning, so we've been told.
How long ago was the beginning?
Generations. I don't believe anyone accurately remembers how far back. Certainly no one in living memory can give you a firm number. If anybody else wants to add any questions of their own, remember that you do have a private channel that can only be heard by you guys, so if you want to suggest a line of questioning or reasoning or whatever, then you can still feel free to do so.
Might be hard.
Hang on,
intriguing is that...
Yep.
Sorry, what is intriguing is that we haven't seen any of what you call the Blizzard.
Well, you haven't asked him to point them out to you, so...
They sound like the warrior cost.
Oh, there are some about that look different.
Yeah.
At least 1, 2,
Oh, really?
3 major different types.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that from looking around, that have obvious differences.
Yeah. So is that maybe a line of questioning you would like to ask next?
I think so. Maybe worthwhile kind of understanding what the differences are between all of the classes of individuals.
Okay. So, this fellow that you've been talking to introduces himself as Balak, and he says he's a functionary. He's actually the lead functionary, which means he's pretty much, from what you understand of it, he would be the equivalent of like the chief engineer. His fellow functionaries are the ones that, if I can highlight somebody, the functionaries look like these guys. So if you've got that. So they're the somewhat stunted ones. The blessed are the ones who are like the warrior caste, are indeed the ones I marked as being the slightly taller ones with the longer necks and the sinewy build. And now that you've had them pointed out to you, you do notice that these specific ones are, they're watching proceedings rather than actively engaging in them, and they've spaced themselves out so that they're, you know, there's obviously one each at the base of the stairs leading up to the plinth or platform that you're on. There's others scattered around the place in key positions. The rest are all mingling and are busy with their little presentations. Which leaves the curates, which are the ones apparently who are allowed to speak, and they would be these more light grey ones. Clear as mud? Or do I need to highlight them again?
That's fine with me.
What was that, sorry, Sean?
It's fine with me.
Okay. So, the ones with the long necks are the blessed.
Could
Go on,
we
yeah.
know what the blessed are protecting the others from?
Yeah. If you want to ask that question through Andrews, then yes. Balak says that there are life forms. There are life forms on the station. Not all of them pleasant. We do have a particularly aggressive vermin in this place. We call them Murgars. But there are others on this station. It's at this point that one of the curates comes down and puts a hand on Balak's shoulder and kind of whispers, "Forgive me, messenger. The functionary is speaking out of turn. You should really be on the platform, enjoying the presentations."
I'd much rather prefer to engage with everyone, get their opinions on what's going on.
Messenger, please, it is protocol that we show you what we have accomplished. If you are not on the platform for all to see, the people will not know how you judge them. Please return to this platform and observe the festivities, if you will. There will be time to speak to others later. As you're led away, as you pass away from Balak, he kind of shifts uncomfortably. And you do notice that you've got that curate, like, intermittently looking between the festivities, yourselves, and Balak. So, let me see now. So yes, let me get the notes here. The food and entertainment have been arranged for the arrival of the messengers. Long tables with a wide array of food. There are a large amount of fresh fruits and vegetables out for everybody to eat. A variety of dishes, all of which are vegetarian, it must be noted.
If I can, I'd like to sort of do a check on them to make sure that they're safe.
Yep, you can try. You're all the way back here, mind you.
Oh, right. So
the food is going on in the middle part of the chamber, like where the people are gathered. You guys are on like an overlook. I mean, you can try, scanning with your tricorder from this distance. Tricorders are usually pretty good.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I seem to have just been disconnected.
Oh, right, I see. So yeah, control and then medicine as before. You're looking for anything, whether or not the food is safe, so...
Basically, yeah.
Nothing much really applies, except maybe biology in a kind of... Is it safe for my biology kind of fashion, so... Yeah, I can let it go with that one.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, just finally now getting back in. So, what was it, did you say control and medicine?
Control and medicine, yeah, so using your medical tricorder to... Have a scan from the distance at whether the food is any good. 2 successes, that's pretty good. So let's see. Food. Where did the food go? Well, they read as palatable. They appear to be a wide array of roasted vegetables. A few dips made from what appears to be coming back on your tricorder scan as pureed fungus. There are fruits arranged on sticks, and even some small pastries filled with fruits and vegetables. As you scan, though, another one of the curates comes up behind you and says, "Is everything to your satisfaction, messenger?"
And I look at him and say, "I'm simply fulfilling my purpose as part of the group."
I see. The messenger's purpose is to judge the Covenant, messenger. Perhaps you would do better to judge us if you were to pay attention to the festivities.
Do I get any impression he's trying to divert my attention for some reason other than this is happening for us?
I can give you that. That'll be insight and command, but I will let peeps... I'll let somebody assist if they really want to, because, you know, you're all in contact with each other, I'm assuming. So, does anybody else want to assist? Insight and command? I mean, who's got a pretty good insight? I mean, Nova's probably a good case for that.
My command's good, but my insight's atrocious. It's not fine.
So, what, Andrews and Nova assist?
You can do. I think the captain's probably be better than me for insight and command.
Okay, do you want the captain to do it instead?
Yeah, I think the captain does it better than insight.
Okay, so there's Nova's roll, which is 0. Who's next in a Webby? Do you want to roll for the captain then, since you don't get to roll as Andrews?
Yeah, you want.
Cool.
I think Jan's rolled less than I have.
Jan can roll as the captain then.
Sure. Insight and command.
Insight in command, if you please, sir.
Could you use team dynamics as a focus?
This is trying to see if you can determine if there's any ulterior motive or subtext to these. Like
tactician.
Bertram's thing was, you know, is he deliberately trying to divert my attention?
Yeah, tactician. Would that be playing to effect as a foci then?
Go on.
She's analysing the battlefield.
Yeah, I'll take that.
It's a supporting one.
Yeah, please. Because
Bertram
Bertram is the one is well, that's 2. So there we are. So whatever Bertram comes up with is gravy, as they say. It's just icing on the cake. 1 success. 3 successes overall. Okay. So with all of you most of you kind of collaborating with your observations as to how these people are conducting themselves, yeah. Whenever they catch you not paying attention to what's going on in the middle, they seem to be determined to divert you back to paying attention to what's going on with the festivities.
Do we get the sensation that they want us to look at the festivities, or they don't want us looking at anything other than the festivities? Is kind of what I'm trying to discern.
Column A, column B.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask... Sorry, go on, what was that?
I think they did a shoddy job of maintaining the station, and now they're trying to distract us with a song and a dance.
Well, yeah, possible. Gareth, what were you about to mention?
Well, it's more so like the first one, they really want us to pay attention to the festivities, and the second one, there is potentially something they don't want us to pay attention to, and they want the festivities is to draw attention away from stuff they don't want us to see.
So yeah, very much echoing what Jan.
Could I potentially use cultural studies to see if this is actually coming across as like a legit kind of ceremony type thing, or is it literally just
that's a good idea, actually,
to distract us?
That's a good idea, actually. See if you can use your cultural studies to do it. In fact, Turin would be handy because she's also got xenoanthropology. So, whose turn would it... God, I'm losing connection to the server a lot tonight.
You're back. You flicked for a second.
Yeah. Let me do something quickly. Don't take this as anything, I'm just testing. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. There was no complication. It never existed.
There'll be another 20.
Right, so who's due to have the roll next? Webby, you've been keeping score. Who is the next less rolled?
Jan, then Sean.
There we are. Then Sean can be Turin. Can help Edwards can help Edwards with an insight and science, yeah, with a focus on anthropology and cultural studies for Edwards.
May I use a momentum?
You may use momentum if everybody else is happy with it. So Sean gets 2 successes as Turin, so she's on fire. 3 successes, he's on fire too!
I need to roll a situation dice.
Okay.
For the untapped potential, see if you get a
Alright.
threat. Is it situation dice? Whatever the D6 is.
It's just roll a D6, yeah. Come on, 5 or 6.
I think I've lost which one's the dice button.
Just type /R space
Oh,
1d6.
Dash.
It's all gravy. Yes! I get a threat. Thank you!
If not, we would have got more momentum. Oh well.
Yay! I don't know why I'm so pleased at that.
Anyway, 5 successes.
5 massive successes, yes. Okay, so from the standpoint of cultural studies and xenoanthropology, Edwards and Turin definitely get the idea that these guys are being sticklers for tradition. Let me think of a good way of putting this. It's
ingrained into the culture. They have to do this.
Yeah, which is interesting when you consider that apparently unless the messengers were indeed humans and Vulcans and Trill and Andorians and Betazoids, the whole shtick seems to be they await the return of the messengers, and they've assumed that apparently that you're the messengers, and now they're going through what they believe is required of them.
So it is legit. So it's not for show. It's like they actually think they have to do this for us. Okay.
That's the impression you're getting. Yes, it's like it's like let me think of a good analogy. It's almost like a festival of appeasement to the gods.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if we don't appease them, then they rain down fire on us, kind of thing, almost. I mean, that's not to say that there's. Go on, sorry.
I think like celebrations of antiquity, like something like Roman or Hellenistic, I should say, and old Romanic kind of religions. They have to do these big old things to appease the gods, or else, as you said, things will happen.
Yeah, so they obviously believe that this is something they need to do, and you need to be paying attention.
Okay. Else they think they're going to suffer the consequences. I'll feed that back to everyone. They'll like, this is legit.
Was anyone else about to say something? I thought I caught. No? Okay, I must have been hearing things. Obviously I'm hearing things, but, you know, I heard things that were not there. So, yes.
I think with that being the case, and that where we believe that they're hiding something from us, Andrews would suggest that we push for that, of that we want to be more directly involved with the celebration, and rather than sitting up on high looking down upon them, is to actually sit at their level.
That would potentially tip them off, though, because why would the gods sit amongst them?
I disagree, because at the same time it's showing that the gods have an absolute vested interest in their activity. And at the same point, we really don't want to start influencing that we are gods upon them, because, you know, the Prime Directive.
We don't want them to turn on us as well.
Yes, we don't. But at the same time, we need to gather information, and rather than being sat up on a podium doing nothing, we're not going to discern a lot of information.
Then why don't we all start picking things up random and asking to have a closer look and see what they do?
It's an idea. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah.
Point
I'll just
accuracy.
Okay, so Sean, you go first.
I was essentially over and just point at a piece of interesting looking technology and have a closer inspection of it. singling somebody out that they've done a job. Yep.
Okay. Did I hear Gareth? You were about to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I know there's been a lot of talk of we need to go along with this in case they harm us. The unfortunate thing about the Prime Directive is it's not supposed to be easy or particularly safe. It's supposed to protect other civilizations from us. We're not supposed to protect ourselves from them. It's basically, even if we're doing it to protect ourselves against a potential threat, doing so is basically breaking the fundamental thing that the Federation is based on, which is we do not interfere and sort of like mess around with the societies of others, which I think this does actually kind of go with. So even though it's potentially dangerous, Bertram would argue that we should not actually be going along with this in any way just because it makes us safer.
What do the rest of you think? This is a very important point, so it's a very good important point that's being made. So,
what kind of weaponry have we seen the Blessed carry?
Interesting. I'm not going to ask for a roll because that's needed at this point. From Caval's vantage point, you can look down on one of the Blessed. Now, the interesting thing is that the Blessed seem to be armed with two weapons. One looks like some kind of baton. The other is some kind of weapon that has a grip and is left in a holster of some kind. You would have to guess that it's some kind of ranged weapon, but it doesn't look like it has a power pack, unlike the baton, which does seem to have a power supply. So the ranged weapon doesn't suggest anything like an energy weapon, but the batons do seem to suggest that there's an energy component to it. But the only ones carrying weapons are the Blessed, and at the moment all of them have their weapons holstered.
I'm sure we could take them. Let's crash the party.
It's 11 on 6. Or 11 on 7. No, 2, 6. 11 on 8.
You mind any?
With experience.
A couple of us have actual combat experience.
So what was that, Sean?
Yeah.
From what we've experienced of these people so far, anyway, they don't seem like they're going to be inclined to believe us, even if we came out and specifically said we're not messengers, we're Starfleet.
Yeah.
The one where he thinks we're testing him.
Well, I agree, is that they've been... Their entire culture has been around waiting for the messenger. When someone turns up, no matter what the messenger says, they will assume that to be the case. So we need to tread very lightly, but at the end of the day, we are in a position where they will probably not stop believing us, even if we outright demand them to tell us exactly what they are doing.
So how many of them are like that friend of yours?
Yeah, maybe Bella can point to something which we could do, which would make them realize we're not the messengers.
Which would mean you would need to find some way of talking to Belloc again. Balak, not Belloc. For some reason I thought he was the villain from Raiders of the Lost Ark for a second.
So this is what happened to him after that Grail business. Well, with that, there's two ways with it. Either some of us can actually be more obvious about it and draw their attention to us as they try, and then, or we can actually try and pick our proverbial battles and try and actually get a hold of someone like Belloc or similar to see if we can actually make progress in getting out of this situation.
I agree. I think we go down Nova's route. Is that some of the group deliberately start trying to get people from within the festivities to bring their piece of bits forwards, because then it shows that we're interacting with it, we're also then drawing the attention of the curates away from us, and they're going to have to be policing other things, which will allow some of us to potentially start slipping away to ask further questions.
So the captain puts herself forward as one of the distracting party. Turin could certainly offer to help in that regard as well, which will leave you guys free to do whatever you guys want to do. So, what would you like Turin and Captain Casse to do to draw attention?
Is it wrong that my immediate reaction is wait for Nova to do something and then shout loudly, Nova, no!
Wrong? No. Expected? Yes, actually. It has that air of believability, you know.
Yeah, I think is that they do deliberately point out someone in the crowd and kind of gesture for them to come forwards. If they're then pushed back, is that if Turin and the captain kind of instinctively go to start heading down towards it, that will create a full distraction. And if they're stopped, it's going to say, well, as part of the festivity, I would like to pay homage to this, technology or item, artifact that is being presented to us, because it has piqued our interest.
So if I have them stand on the bottom part of this stairway here, they're trying to draw attention to that section to allow you guys to go the other way. Is that what you had in mind?
Yes.
Yes? Awesome. Oh, who did we lose? We lost
Gareth.
Gareth. Okay. Oh, and here
And
he
he's
is.
back.
But
What would,
severely going bad on me.
Jan.
what would be exceptionally useful, if possible, is if they could identify a rivalry between two different exhibitions and call out one of those two.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Okay. So Turin calls on one, Captain Casse calls on another, and they both get a competition going between who can show theirs the best. Okay, so I am going to assume that because Captain Casse is very good at presence and command type tasks, that I won't need to roll. I'm just going to assume that she does. It gives you a certain amount of time. How much time they can buy you? Well, that's between me and the threat I haven't spent yet. Sorry, I mean... No, I do mean what I meant.
I think Andrews would be kind of more on the distraction of the guards as well, but more in a physical manner, to basically just deliberately start getting in their way. So kind of like blocking line of sight to allow others to get past.
Okay, so place Andrews where you want to place Andrews, so that the rest can go where they want to go.
Do you want a control and security on that?
You're looking to physically block, so you're also trying to do a look at me, aren't you? Basically.
Yeah, so presence and security.
So either presence or daring, I'd be happy with there as well, actually, because
I'd go for daring on that.
Yeah.
Battlefield tactics.
all right, yeah. Because you are trying to use that to block. Is it all right that Webby spends his momentum?
I think Cavell will assist with that because I'm not really a cultural kind of guy. That's more Edwards and maybe the Doctor.
In his own way, Vipers I think should tag with Nova, because if they're going to look at tech,
Yeah.
and that leaves Edwards and Bertram to do the more cultural side of things. Whoa, 3 successes from Andrews. So, yeah, very good blocking. So, Andrews and Cavall have bought Bertram, Edwards, Nova, and Vipers time to slip away and get mingling. So you basically you've got a little bit of time to go where you want to go. So where does Edwards think he wants to put himself to, find out stuff? I have words. What would Edwards like to do in order to try and further the cause of finding out what he wants, what you guys want to know? You want to mingle with the guard types or the functionaries, the engineers, or what? With the noble caste?
Just trying to think what could be asked.
In the meantime,
then. Oops.
Never mind.
No,
go on.
No,
I was just going to say, if you're not sure yet, then maybe Sean can put Nova and Vibers where they can do the most good, or damage, or good damage.
You want to talk to engineer, right? You would go to the seemingly chief engineer.
Okay. Yep.
And I suppose focus on the fact that he said that he was trying to keep this place in pristine condition. Clearly, it isn't. So, what happened there? And then obviously, Andrew's wanted the question of what can we do to prove to everyone we are messages.
Okay, so I will come back to that. Edwards and Bertram. I'm gonna have to start doing the less threat thing as well as confusing Nova and Natala. If I start saying Edwards and Andrews too much, I'm gonna have to start reducing the threat.
Edwards and Andrews, Space Detective Agency.
Edwards, where does he want to go? Does he want to stick with Bertram, or does he want to go up on his own thing?
So just while they have been doing this dance and things like that, they said they were meant to be judging them on what they've done. Have they actually displayed anything, or has it literally just been dancing?
It's been all sorts: singing, dancing, acting. They've been performing music, reciting stories and poetry.
It's literally more of a cultural thing they're showing, so not technically a technological or societal advance. It's more on a cultural level how they've done, I said, theatre, music, the arts, effectively.
Yes, indeed.
Intriguing.
So, does Edwards want to position himself anywhere in the crowd, or is he content to just keep watching?
He's actually content to keep watching, because this is very fascinating for him for his studies, because he was wanting to see what else they'll actually show.
Okay.
That, and also it's an opportunity to record an alien species, new alien species' customs. So whatever information he can gather.
Okay, I get you. What about Bertram then? What's Bertram going to do?
Bertram wants to. This question: how far big a range do the tricorder's scanning abilities have?
Medical tricorder tends to be pretty close range, all things considered.
Yeah.
You got enough range to cover this chamber.
Yeah, Bertram is noted mainly because obviously his first sort of thing is a medical kind of thing. He's obviously aware of the cues that their life support hasn't necessarily been kept up to scratch. And he also did note earlier that they mentioned they have issues with vermin creatures. He's starting to put together a picture that this place isn't exactly like the sterile and environmentally safe place, or safe and controlled place that they're trying to make out. So what I want to do is try and find any sort of signs of things basically under the hood. Can I see anywhere where vermin might get in or out, or any signs that the environment isn't up to scratch, that sort of thing? Any sort of clues on that regard?
Okay.
If confronted by a person, might try and actually sort of turn on them and start asking questions, sort of in a professional, I'm a doctor and I need these questions asked for the safety of all, now tell me what I need to know thing.
So, where would Bertram like to position himself? Is he going down amongst the throng, as it were?
Are those cracks on the floor actually there that I can see in the middle of the thing?
Yep.
Yep. In that case, you might go over where there are obvious signs of damage and wear and tear. So, like, supposed to move it roundabout by here.
That's fine. Now, so I've discussed what Nova and Vibers are doing, we've discussed what Ed is doing, discussed what Bertram is doing. So finally, whilst Andrews and Thazanan are team distract, you're going to use the opportunity to fire any pointed questions at them, or what? What would you like to do whilst you're there, besides being the screen for your fellows being able to move about? If anything. Nothing? Okay. Then I will move on. So first things first, Nova and Vibers. Let me see. So, yes, you approach it from the standpoint of this place is obviously not as up to scratch as it should be. And this is illustrated nicely when you do actually go up to Balak to ask him some questions. The lights in the whole chamber flicker, which suggests obviously a fluctuation in the power grid, at least in this area. So yes, Balak admits that things look pretty dilapidated, and he'll be the first to admit it, because the knowledge of how to appropriately care for this place and most of the technology has slowly been getting lost as time has gone on. And this is as much due to the fact that the lower parts of the station, this station that they all live in, is prohibited. None of the Covenant are actually allowed to go down into the lower levels, because apparently there are other creatures down there known as the Apostate. The only thing you can get out of Balak about the Apostate is that apparently Balak's grandfather once told him a story that long before his time, the Covenant and the Apostate used to work together, but the Apostate turned against the Covenant, and they were banished to the levels deep below, never to be seen again. The Blessed's task is to keep the Covenant safe from the Apostate, who are apparently savage creatures that do not talk. They just attack as soon as they see you. But as such, that leaves the functionaries, the engineers, with only able to use what they have on these upper levels, and over time things have just continued to go wrong. And Balak's fairly certain that, you know, it won't be long. Not necessarily maybe within his lifetime, but it's going to be a cycle where eventually things are just going to cross a point of no return. And he's obviously kind of concerned about that, because he just looks out at the throng of people who are singing and dancing and reciting stories and poetry and stuff, and he just seems to have that look in his eyes that says he knows there's a doom coming, but he can't tell people.
Is there anything that the messengers would usually do that would help to fix that? Like, are we allowed to tell them about the technology? Because obviously the transporter room lost power. So would we be able to interfere with that, or would that go against messengers' duties?
Balak kind of scratches his chin at this and is like, well, as far as he remembers being told, the gods themselves were the ones who created this place. And they were mighty beings because they were able to actually form monuments out of planets, and move planets about even. So the gods were the ones who left the Covenant in charge of this place and told them to look after it until such time as the messengers of the gods would return in order to bring the Covenant to their proper reward. As far as the messengers being able to actively take part in trying to conduct repairs, Balak's very unsure, but he looks over towards the curates and reckons that chances are the messengers are seen as being above such things. If the messengers were seen to start conducting repairs, it would suggest to the Covenant that they didn't do a good enough job taking care of the place. And that might bring the anger of the gods. Does that answer your questions? I'm going to assume a yes.
Apart from how we prove we aren't messengers.
I didn't quite catch the end of that, Sean. You're going to have to repeat that.
How would we prove we aren't messengers?
How would you prove you're not the messengers? He blows air out through his lips at this one. He just looks over at the curates. I really don't know. The trouble is, no one's seen or even knows what a messenger's meant to look like. The fact that you came through the Forgotten Chamber, for all I know, you could be messengers, but with the way you're talking, the way you're acting, I really don't think you are. But as far as the curates are concerned, and theirs is the only opinion that matters, as long as they're following protocol and you're following what's expected of the messengers, things are just going to turn out as protocol demands. I have no answer for you, I'm afraid, messenger. Sorry.
Nova.
Nova. I don't know what to tell you. I'm at the end of my rope. I can't tell the curates that I'm no longer able to repair everything because that's my job. And if I'm not doing my task, they'll just appoint somebody else. But if I don't do it, then who knows what's going to get overlooked? And I can only do so much with what limited knowledge I have. I'm sorry, I don't know what to recommend. I apologize if this isn't helpful. See, even I can't help deferring to you. It's that ingrained in us. Right. Meanwhile...
Towards a path.
No, sorry, I interrupted you there, Sean. Go on.
No, that was just leading us towards a path.
Okay.
It's like he's where he's climbing.
I'm going to lean back to Edwards at this point with his cultural observations. So, from what Edwards can observe, let me see. I will allow you an insight in science with cultural studies to see exactly how much you can glean. I'm going to set the difficulty at 1.
Okay.
But I am going to spend a point of threat to put the threat range up. Oh, and you managed to get away with that successfully. Okay. 3 successes. Alright, so, anyone who's seen Maori dances will spot that they tend to use it as means of teaching the next generation how to fish and how to steer a canoe, that kind of thing. So, it's not unheard of for cultures to pass on information to the next generation that they think needs to be known, by medium of visual arts. So what Edwards picks up on is that people are singing songs or doing dances that, when you ignore the artistic element of it, can see that some of them are movements that would suggest somebody is plugging and unplugging something into a panel, maybe. There's a lot of specific movements that in dances and physical performances that suggest there are things that have been passed down that are to do with maintaining the technology, but it's reached that level of it's deviated so far past its point of origin.
It's the cargo cult.
Yeah. So now the whole concept of technology and stuff like that has taken on almost folkloric qualities.
I'm able to start recording this for the tricorder, or is that a bit beyond its capabilities?
No, you've got a data pad and you've got a tricorder, but it's going to be mostly, Edwards noting down his observations on a pad.
Also, has the talks, what people have been learning, been being passed back and forth on the private channel, or have they been keeping it to themselves?
That's a good question.
Considering I think it was Andrews that wanted to know one of them that had been passed on.
Right. I didn't like to assume, so yeah.
It's more from the talk with Balak. It's more, if it was going back and forth, people would actually provide information what he said. Edwards would then relay that what he just said, basically, that these aren't just cultural things. This is literally like potentially how to maintain part of the ship, but it's come that far away. It's a ritual now. Actually, no, not the cargo cult. It's more Cult Mechanicus from Warhammer. It's
almost that level, yes.
So,
but it's like the Cult Mechanicus from Warhammer 40k if they only had what was nearby to work with. So, yeah.
It's more as a level of where like normal people would just just hit the bloody machine. They have to do a dance because that's that's what they're used to doing to try and appease the thing.
Yeah.
So that's how they, as far as I know, get it to work, rather than just a simple, just do this bit.
So, with that in mind, and those many successes that you gleaned, and I just added the momentum you gained from that, your best guess for the level of, I'm going to use the word, and I'm going to use the term, but I'm probably using it in the incorrect manner, but the term I'm going to use, the amount of cultural drift that seems to have happened would suggest that these people may have been here for millennia.
That makes sense.
Right, I'm going to divert off now to Bertram.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, no, I just made a connect. That means literally the messages, the whole purpose wasn't to obviously witness the dances. The point was to see if they knew what they were doing and maintaining it. They've just repeated it so long it's become a ceremony rather than literally someone giving out instructions and seeing if they remembered it. That's just what clicked with that. Is that makes sense, right?
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So potentially the role that they think we are would be making sure they're doing it right and theoretically correcting them if they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you can if you log back the cultural drift, you could almost imagine that the messengers of the gods, as they see them, could quite very well have been just the shift manager coming around to make sure they were doing the job right.
Yeah.
If you want to get that kind of way, that makes a good amount of sense.
No, but that would be a way into letting us potentially fix stuff. Is what I was making come. Sorry, I'm keeping interrupting Gareth.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop now, Gareth, before I go on.
Bertram's circling around the place. The place, dilapidated as it is, these people seem to keep it reasonably clean. Now, there are ventilation ducts around, some of which are pretty grotty, none of which appear to have been breached. But what Bertram can notice is that the Blessed, like I noted, they carry a baton that seems to have an energy charge. They look almost like stun batons.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible, just considering the observation that Edwards has just made, that the Blessed could one point could very well just have been pest control. So they've got these like shock sticks on them that can be used to maybe, you know, stun and or kill vermin. As far as the cleanliness of the place goes, it's not bad considering what they've got to work with. The vegetables are pretty fresh stuff. I mean, there's fungus and stuff, which suggests that somewhere around here they've got somewhere that can grow things. The color of the plants doesn't suggest photosynthesis of any kind, so they probably get their sustenance from the lighting.
Yeah.
So they're less green, more a kind of bluey, greeny color, leaf-wise.
Yeah.
So these are plants that are probably fungi that have adapted to the environment rather than been picked up and born here, or probably things that these people brought with them, and the plants have just adapted over time to the situation they found themselves in. You don't know the extensiveness of the network of ventilation, so it's entirely possible that if there are vermin, rat-like vermin around the place, then maybe the rats can sometimes make attempt at infiltrating here, but there's no animal droppings around the place that would suggest that it's that this place is in danger of being extremely unsanitary. So this place is good, at least. Does that answer the questions that you posed?
The impression I'm getting is they clean the surfaces but don't necessarily look at the plumbing. Is that the impression I'm getting?
Yeah, that'll do. Do for a good analysis.
Okay.
Okay. So hopefully that's answered what everyone was looking for. So yeah, the Turin and Captain Ducasse's distraction and Andrews and Thasmin's blocking eventually gets intercepted, but luckily by the time that happens, and you guys have had a chance to find out what you find out, the main part of the festival comes to an end. And it's at this point that the High Curate announces that it's time for everyone to enjoy the feast. So everyone is encouraged to start mingling in the center and start enjoying the food. As far as Bertram can see, the food is safe to eat.
Okay, I'll make sure the others know that.
So, time to mingle. You can actually mingle safely now with the crowd. So if there are any more specific questions you would like to try and get answered, now would be the time to do it. But, for the most part, you have done very well with finding out stuff. You found out about the rats, you found out about the apostate, you found out about not being allowed into the lower parts of the place. The Covenant called the station the Habitation. They know that the Covenant know that the Habitation is powered by some engine somewhere, but if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be in the forbidden lower levels, where the apostate lurk. So, unless there's any other questions or things you want to find out, now's the time to ask. Nope. Okay.
Nothing from me.
So after a good bit of mingling, after a good bit of mingling, you find that these people are pretty friendly, and they seem to be just eager to please. I mean, the blessed make sure they're being seen to stand to attention. The curates do most of the talking, but the functionaries are also keen to talk. But whenever you try and suggest that you would like to get a look at some of the machinery to see if, just to have a look at it, there's always a curate nearby to just steer you away from that line of conversation and just try and get you back on track to enjoying the food. Eventually, High Curate Meharon claps her hands and declares that the festivities are now over, I should say. The festivities are now over, so it's time for everyone to retire to their chambers so that they can resume shift work, as is normal. So, she approaches you all and asks, if you will follow me, messengers, we have... what's the word I'm looking for? Accommodation. Appropriate to ones of your station that we would like to offer you whilst you stay. If you will follow me, please. So, do you follow? Do you divert? What do you want to do? I am going to assume the silence means follow for now. Okay.
So, yeah.
Follow, look out for like.
Mhm.
Can we look out for like an equivalent of Jeffrey's cubes?
Yeah, cool, no problem. Alright, just gonna move you over to another map. Right, there's nobody on here because I forgot to put you in. I'm an idiot. So let me
No tokens with vision.
No, because there are no tokens on there. It's the one thing I
If only Claude was here. He always has vision.
Claude is life.
Yes.
Let me bring your characters in. So, you are shown by High Curate Meharon to a large room which seems to contain seating, a couple of benches, tables, and an array of food storage counters. You think at some point in its past, this room may very well have been the equivalent of almost like a self-service market, but none of the tech seems to be working anymore. But apparently it's the best thing they've got to offer you as far as accommodation goes, which kind of in the back of your mind speaks to what the condition of accommodation for the regular folks must be like around here. As you're shown in, as you're shown into this accommodation, the doors clang shut behind you, and then you hear them lock. There is a window through which you can see High Curate Meharon and a pair of the Blessed that flank her. And she comes up to the window. Messengers, since we have observed protocol, I now feel confident that I can now ask, if not demand, why the Covenant were abandoned. We have been forced to live on this place as we were directed, and yet we have not received any news or messengers for generation upon generation. My people, as a result, have suffered in their faith. We were promised that were we to do a good enough task, that we would be rewarded. We would be allowed to go home. Why have you taken so long? Answer me, messengers. I think you owe us an explanation.
Captain, is it time that we reveal the full truth?
The captain kind of tuts. Well, I should hope so, but are they going to take our word for it?
I believe not, but unfortunately we have, if we can potentially find out how to reverse the technology, perhaps we can get them back to where we came from. They seem to be able to support a Class M lifestyle, or Class M planet light abilities.
Let's hope so. The captain comes up closer to the windows as I've put her here, and she starts to try to appeal to Meharon that, we're not who you think we are. We're actually travelers from a distant place. How much of what you've learned would you like the captain to reveal to Meharon? I mean, would you like her to reveal everything that she's discovered about the Covenant and who you guys are as a result?
I don't think we can pretend to be the messengers, and I think this, honestly, is the best policy, that we're essentially explorers from a faraway civilization who came here by accident, as the captain said right at the beginning.
Okay. So yeah.
I think we should tell her we're the sons and daughters of Prometheus.
On the off chance that they don't ask who Prometheus was?
If we're going to be honest, go ahead and do it, not muddy the issue. At this point in time, I think we just get ourselves into more trouble.
Yeah, so go with brutal honesty.
It's gone to the point where we can potentially reveal this without causing a massive panic.
Okay. So yeah, the captain does her best to outline everything. We're not messengers from the gods, we're in fact just people who were caught up in an accident, have been transported to this station. We don't know why you were here and all that. And Meharon just sags visibly at this. Still, you play games. Fine. Let's see if maybe the lights of the next shift will convince you to be honest with us. And right here at Meharon and her guards just turn around and leave. However, a little time later, too long later, Balak appears. Sorry for your predicament, my friends. As you can see, the curates, they are all too fervent in their belief that you are the messengers. I didn't realize, however, that Meharon felt as she did about us being abandoned by the gods. Look. He looks around to make sure there's nobody listening. I don't have the key to the locks for these doors, but I think I might be able to offer you something a little bit better, with a possible means of escape, but not a certain one. If what you've been telling me is true, then it stands to reason that the whole talk about what may lie down in the depths of the station, of habitation, may or may not be what we expect. I myself have done maintenance in this section. If you go to the furthest room, the northwesternmost room in this place that you are currently incarcerated within, there should be a panel on the floor behind a chair. If you can loosen it, I believe that it leads to the ductwork. I have never explored this ductwork myself because all ductwork is assumed to lead down into the forbidden bowels of the station. I don't know what you'll find there, but it may very well be at least a chance of being able to escape. If you can't convince Meharon that you're the messengers, I fear her anger and disappointment at being left behind may compel her to take measures that may not be pleasant. And I don't wish that of you. You may not be the messengers, but at the very least, you're somebody who is possibly what we need here. So do with my recommendation as you will. Either find your own way out or you can try and take the ductwork out. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And Balak just walks around the corner. So, well, we've left you with pretty much only two choices. Stay and face the music, or try and escape. I'm going to assume I know which one it is, but then I've also learned long ago never to assume much when it comes to players. So...
Poker table, anyone? Poker?
Indeed.
Broad shot. Can we initiate the Vibers protocol on this, please?
To be honest, I was expecting just to like let Nova have at it. If anyone's going to find a way out of this place, it's probably her.
In that regard, then.
There's going to be some air ducts or something. Okay.
Up in here is where Nova finds it. There's a small bit of a squeeze, but there is a door leading into ductwork. So, I'm going to assume, but maybe you guys can tell me for sure next time, because that's where we're going to leave it.
Dun dun dun.
So, how are these guys going to get out of their predicament? Are they going to try and talk their way through to Meharon and see if she can finally see sense? Or are they going to take the ductwork down and see what might lurk in the forbidden depths of the habitation? I guess we'll have to...
Ductwork.
I'm assuming the ductwork, but I know better than to assume. In either case, folks who are attending the stream will have to, of course, find out next week what happens. So, thank you everybody for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this one. A bit quieter one than has been before.
Claude would just smash through the door, or through the window.
Claude would probably have just beaten everybody up, and you'd be the guys in charge.
Yeah, he's not some sort of like manic sort of like monster. He has feelings and sense. He's not just sort of like me fist, me smash.
Well, there we go then. Claude would delicately smash his way through the back doors.
Claude would kill the real messengers of gods and take their place.
No, we'll come back out of the ductwork and they'll just be sort of like the Praetor just sort of like splattered into the glass, and then Claude's just at the front door going, Claude saved station. Claude found station. Claude just walked from like 52,000 light years to get here.
Boy, is Claude's tail end tired.
This was a jog for Claude.
He probably does it in a single bound.
Yeah, as soon as he kicked off the planet moved as Claude also flew into the space.
Yeah, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so the planet's now currently orbiting in sort of like the Andromeda galaxy.
Well, in any case, thank you guys for tuning into the stream, if you have, and for those who wish to, we'll end up with part 2 of this episode next week at the same kind of time. So, with no further ado, thanks for coming. Hope to see you next week. Live long and prosper, and hailing frequencies closed.